Dirk Griggity, shout out to him, has been on a mission to open up a part of this whole book. According to him, he believes, and I think there's a lot of basis to this, that some PlayStation fans would prefer that the business burn down. My words, burn down. Dirk Griggity's words, go out of business, than change their strategy. They can't run PlayStation business how they used to. The industry has changed. This isn't 2000 anymore. Now, I've been saying the industry has changed since 2023. The moment Microsoft went in and said, we're going to put up the money to buy Activision Blizzard King, and we're going to do everything that's needed to meet every criteria, that's when you knew that they were pursuing something that even the regulators didn't see. Remember when they talked about the cloud distribution of Activision Blizzard King, that should go to another company? The CMA was playing this weird game. I gotta say, man, sorry, but the CMA didn't even see the grand picture, because at the time, Jim Ryan could not expose the picture because PlayStation was deficient in that particular area, which is that the platform industry had shifted from hardware to software because technology had been catching up. PlayStation was just one of many ways to access the top played video games in the space. And Xbox, instead of worrying about console sales, was going to buy its way even further high upon the hierarchy. As they had already gotten in there with Minecraft, fortunately for them, this opportunity, Call of Duty, was going to skyrocket them all the way up to number 1 position from pretty much around number 7, while PlayStation was nowhere to be found. Are y'all seeing the grand picture now? That's why Jim Ryan was fighting against this thing happening, because it wasn't just Call of Duty sales. No. It was also the fact that there was a platform, there were many stores, and when PlayStation's documentation leaked, even I myself was so focused on our pillars and data and behind the competition that I did not pay attention to something very interesting, which is the leapfrog. Activision provides incredible strategic value across live service games, scale in mobile, and PC storefront Battle.net, meaning that there are many possibilities in terms of users as well that can get in there. Dirk Griggity got a response from someone that I thought was very interesting. They said, I'm convinced folks believe the industry has changed. But in reality, it hasn't. And that Microsoft just failed at keeping up with the industry and now is trying to change everyone else in the industry to their new one of thinking because they can outspend them. Now, shout out to this person, but I think I understand what you're trying to say, but I think the way you put us in a logical conundrum. Because if you say that Microsoft failed at keeping up with the industry, how then can they change everyone else in the industry? You'd have to be an industry leader to influence change. So I think in your bid to talk about Microsoft's business in the downplaying side, you have just inadvertently called them the market leader. And I think you're playing a dangerous game, because the people who usually enjoy downplaying Xbox's, pattern of doing business might just not be happy with you. You see, again, this is the epidemic. Downplay everything Xbox does, because there's no world that we can justify that we're not on Xbox, right? Without downplaying Xbox, and we can justify our purchase of another platform without doing so. Xbox is the market leader. Among the three, which Nintendo is going to inevitably end up there. They're going to do it differently. Just watch. The market doesn't care who you are. They may be selling all the hardware in the world, but they're selling outdated hardware. Think about it. Your business is predicated on outdated technology from the hardware space. And just like every console, and I'm not blaming them that they're selling outdated hardware. No. Not just them. But every console is predicated on the fact that that hardware is already outdated by the time it comes. So how then can the console manufacturer keep up if within 8 years you have to somehow convince people that they need to keep buying ever degrading, ever irrelevant from a technological aspect hardware. Well, you don't need to do that if you actually have a platform that everybody can just access via whatever hardware that they want. BYOD. This is the core reason that Steam and Valve is exactly in the position that they are as a top player in that market, because they just opened it up and said, hey, bring your own freaking device. Here, we make some devices. People are like, oh, Steam's hardware doesn't sell. My brother, Steam's hardware is not required for you to be on Steam. Steam's profit margins, PlayStation's profit margins cannot hold a candle to it, because they don't have to sit there and do R&D and all this nonsense and market and do stock and all this nonsense and develop hundreds of $1 million, multi-million-dollar games to convince you to buy their hardware. They just furnish you, the consumer, with a platform where you can actually play your games, keep your games, and access your games however you want. And now, even Valve themselves, within their platform, let me go at big brain. Let me big brain you guys into oblivion. This is when I discovered it. I was like, oh my gosh, Gabe is more dangerous than all these people actually think. Okay, get in here. Let's look at the top. This is the top sellers. What are the top sellers? It should be top played games. I don't know how do you find? There we go. It will be top sellers. There we go. Counter-Strike 2. It's a free game. It's a top seller. Do you know why it's a top seller? Because it's one of the top played games in and out on this particular platform. Who is the publisher of this game? Valve. Millions and millions of players. If we go back to Matt Piscatella's data set that I just showed you just now, he has one for Steam. Number one, peak Counter-Strike. You see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? Counter-Strike 2. They not only have that, they also have Dota, which is also another huge one as well. So they understand that the platform is beyond the hardware. That's why people keep saying, oh, the Nintendo Switch is going to sell more than, the Steam Deck. My guy, if Valve really wanted to sell hardware like, a crazy cadence, why do you not buy Steam Decks at, freaking Best Buy or Walmart? They're not interested in dealing with that kind of a notion where the hardware is already outdated and then the user is now burdened with no. In fact, the hardware now should be additive to how you access your video games. And that's why PlayStation has also decided, and I got to go back to this tweet, that they're no longer going to focus on MAUs. They're not going to focus on hardware sales. Rather, they're going to focus on MAUs. That's how you basically see where the business is moving. So for somebody to say that Microsoft failed, yet are making everybody think about this, they're one-off. No. It's because these companies also have data. They have numbers and information that you're not privy to. Now, the Activision Blizzard case, that was the learning moment for every gamer, every fanboy, every news outlet, and every YouTuber and podcaster out there. All that information just spilled out. Like we had been sitting in the dark, and all of a sudden, information just started to just spew out because, somebody didn't use the right kind of freaking whiteout. And so now we know that there are, or at least in 2022, let me show you the platform impact of Call of Duty on PlayStation. You want to see it? This is reported by Games Radar. In 2021, more than 1 million PlayStation players only played Call of Duty, meaning they literally bought a PlayStation and all they do is live in an Xbox platform. The PlayStation console is irrelevant to Spider-Man and God of War and all that stuff to them. They are just simply playing that one game. PlayStation was enjoying this when Activision was a third-party partner with them, and they could leverage exclusivity deals, better maps, and all of that. It was a place to play Call of Duty. Now, believe you me, if Xbox found out that they could get more people on Call of Duty, they'd probably give them another exclusive map. The industry has changed. I don't know how y'all sat there console warring and this thing flew right over y'all's heads. That's not all. The numbers are insane. Check this out. Additionally, this is to those claims. This was from Sony when they were talking about and trying to stop the deal from going through. And they were running all over the place, talking to the judges and the courts and the, bodies. We were all sitting there going, what? Additionally, while the average player spends 16 hours per year playing Call of Duty, 6 million spend 70% of their time on the platform with this specific franchise, amounting to an average of 296 hours a year. At that game time adds up, all that game time adds up to some significant spending. The Verge notes that COD represented $800 million in PlayStation's revenue in the United States alone, totaling around $1.5 billion worldwide. That's before we count in-game purchases, which PlayStation chief Jim Ryan amounts to about $15 billion per year on average. All this goes a long way towards explaining why Sony is afraid of an Xbox exclusive Call of Duty. Millions of extremely loyal fans leaving PlayStation to go spend their time and money with Xbox would be a significant hit. Even if a partnership deal is reached, there will be a ticking clock hanging over the franchise. See, funny enough, a lot of the game industry people who informed us on this stuff all lost their freaking mind as well and started to say nonsense after the acquisition. It's not even really big of an impact. It's not really a big deal. It's not really that big of a deal. Call of Duty is just one thing. In fact, it's going down. I mean, games industry, the biz. Do y'all remember the article that they published where they said, oh, Call of Duty might end up being more in favor of Black Ops 6 for PlayStation and Xbox? Do y'all remember that? Yeah, the media has been very funny about this too. So again, this is why everybody makes a mockery of the fanboy, conundrum or the fanboy framework or whatever it is, because you're in a really interesting place where you have information that actually should heal you of your fanboyism, but somehow you're resistant. It's like you have a resistant strain of a virus that doesn't want to get out of your system, even when the treatment is actually there for it. And so that's why everyone's looking and going, man, this is crazy. That the gaming industry has actually changed even before Xbox actually started doing any of this multi-platform shift, right? The industry was already in transformation. As long as PlayStation depended on third party, the growth of third party has now become insurmountable. That they're not like Nintendo. Nintendo by sheer hardware, weirdness, they were able to cut out a lot of third party developers on their platform and basically sift them out. But now they went and got a more powerful device and they're inviting trouble. They're going to leverage the Switch 2 generation. But once that generation passes, I am not certain how they can go ahead and leverage a Switch 3 and think they're going to do 150 million units. Where are they going to find those people from? A lot of them would have moved on to better devices and better ecosystems. It's just that simple. And Nintendo, I'm sure by then would probably have made, concession for that loss of a user base by going to acquire another user base. Comment section. Thanks for watching the video. We'll talk about this pretty soon. Peace out.